Hi, this is Double Doll Custom Creations, and today we're going to be doing a Nikki marble epoxy tumbler. I learned from Nikki years ago how to do this type of tumbler, so I'm super excited to share what I know with you so you can achieve this amazing marble look as well. If you're new to my channel, welcome. If you're a subscriber, welcome back. If you are brand new to tumbler making, you can go and check out my playlist. I have beginners epoxy tumbler tutorials as well as crystalline. Like always, I will have everything linked in the description below. First, you're going to want to start out with a prepped and painted white tumbler, and then each of your micas is going to go into an individual medicine cup. These are all my color shift, which are going to be towards the end. Silicone makeup applicators are great for this, but you don't have to have this. You need to have baby wipes handy and gloves on. I usually double glove, so if I have to remove one, I still have one on underneath to replace another one. You're going to be doing a lot of stuff with your hands on this tutorial. So I am just adding a very thin layer of epoxy onto the tumbler just to get a base coat. If you do it too thick, your micas and glitters are going to shift with your turner's movement. I don't want that. I want to be able to lay something down and it stay. So I'm just doing a very, very thin coat. A little thicker than you would for a glitter coat, but still extremely thin. Do your bottoms as well. And then you're going to be adding the rest of the epoxy into those medicine cups that you have your micas in. The first colors I do, I have a teal, a blue, a greener teal, and then a gold. And my color shifts, I have a pearl white, a gold ghost white, a blue green shift, and a dark blue teal shift. So I'm just going to add a little bit of epoxy to each medicine cup and then stir everything up. My black and white are luminite dye. You don't need hardly any black in your medicine cup. It is very opaque, so a little goes a very long way. The white, I want it to be really opaque, so I add more than I did the black. You will not want to use fast set or any kind of fast curing epoxy with this. You're going to need as much time as possible as you work. I am using CCDIY artist resin. It is my absolute favorite. It has been for 5 years now. Once you have everything ready to go, you can start applying layers of micas. You want to make sure you have a cleaned glove hand, and you're going to want to decide which way you want your marble to flow. If you want to go from down to top, if you're going the opposite way, you need to change your turner. You want to stick with one direction the entire time, but you're going to be going from the bottom to the top either way. Whichever way feels more comfortable with you. Just take some micas on your gloved finger and you're just going to run it along that tumbler as the turner turns, okay? If you have way too much, you can smooth it out. You don't want it to be 100% perfect line. You want it to give it that jagged edge. But remember, this is all just the first layer. We're going to be adding a lot on top of this. When you switch colors, make sure you wipe your hand off really well, or you're going to just blend your colors together, which could be a beautiful addition as well. If it happens, it happens. Just on these first couple layers, I try to make sure I keep the colors as separate as possible, and you can mix and match later. So I am just adding colors next to each other. If I take a makeup brush and run it along my tumbler, it's going to take off more than my gloved fingers would do, but it adds a different texture. So sometimes I like going back and forth just to add dimension, okay? I am just going on the opposite sides of my last line. If you want a certain order of colors, you're going to want to stick with that order. And then you're just taking your hand, going from the bottom to the top, trying not to stop mid-pool as you're going up the tumbler. It will kind of break up the seamless flow if you stop mid-tumbler. If you do happen to do that, it's not a big deal. You just take your finger again off the bottom and then run it all the way along the top to kind of smooth out that spot. You're going to see me re-wiping areas that look done, but this is a constant type of process. The bottoms, all I'm doing is I'm tapping a little bit of mica onto the bottom as I work with each individual color, just to add a little color to the bottom. The bottom is not going to be a marble like this. It's going to be more of kind of a swirl with those colors. If you want to do more of a marble look, that's your choice. I don't know how to do that. So I just kind of let the bottoms be. When you're adding black, you're going to want to add barely any. I'm telling you, this is very opaque. So I am just adding a teeny tiny bit onto my gloved fingers and then running it along any white areas that still might be there. This is adding dimension and the veins of a marble. So once you get a little bit on your tumbler, you're going to want to wipe away majority of what you just put on. Between each pull, you're going to want to wipe off your glove, because if you don't, the next time you touch your tumbler, it's going to be on your hand. One thing I do have to say, on the bottom, if you pull too hard, you can remove everything off the bottom. Like you see here, the bottom is now a little bare, so you will see me adding more to add color back to that. I wasn't catching myself. I was pulling too hard on the bottom. So once I am happy with the base colors, now it is time to add the glitter layer. So I add kind of coordinating colors to my micas. So I'm adding a gorgeous blue to that teal, and then a gold into my gold mica, and then I'm going to be adding the next layer onto the tumbler. However, make sure you're happy with how all of your mica base colors look, because once you start adding the glitter, your glitter does not pool and shift the same way straight micas did. So if you're not really happy with the base layer, don't add the glitter yet. But before I move on to the glitter, I'm going to add some of my color shifting micas. I'm using that silicone pencil tip applicator. So I am just going to then run thin lines. Normally I stick to the same, like a dark blue with the dark blue, a light blue with the light blue, that kind of stuff. But I do bring it into the white sometimes, just so you can have a small variation outside in the sun. That's where you're going to see all of these gorgeous color shifts come to life. This is just adding a slight dimension to it. So I'm using now the white ghost gold. I'm adding that to my white sections. These slight color shifts in the white is going to add massive amount of character to your tumbler. So once I have some on, I'm just going to wipe. This is the time, I don't really care if they blend and mix together, because that kind of adds even more dimension. If you feel like you need to add a little bit more color to areas, add it now before glittering. If you think you've added too much black in an area, you can use that white to then brighten that area up again. I also use the white with that pencil silicone brush just in areas that kind of are becoming muddled a little bit, just to add a brightness from the solid white again. The more times you pull over something, the more chances you actually do have to kind of muddle the colors. But this is why you have a nice area of straight white with the Illuma dyes. It adds that bright white back in. So now I am moving on to glitter layer. So this is a color shift. I am just adding a very little amount. I add the glitters onto the mica base that match the glitters the best. So I'm just kind of globbing small areas around as I pull up along the tumbler. You're going to then smooth it back out, but you don't want a straight full line. You kind of want it just in random areas. When you're pulling on top of your glitters, you're going to want to even go gentler than you ever have, because you can remove all of the mica underneath that glitter if you're too rough with it. I usually stick to one color and then move on to the next color after I wipe my glove off really, really well, because at this point I don't want blending happening with the glitters. And then just go in and add some more of those color shift micas to give it even more pop. Add a opal white glitter to my white mica container and just kind of put it in areas that need just a little bit more sparkle. This is just going to add another color shift to your tumbler. If you feel like you've lost all of your black veining on your marble, just go ahead and add a little bit more. But at this point, you're kind of towards the end of working with the tumblers, so less is more. It's not going to come off as easy as it did prior. If you do add too much, like I've added a little bit too much in a couple places, you're going to have to work at it a little bit harder to get it to lighten up like you did in the previous steps. I'm kind of at the end of my work time. You're going to feel your epoxy start clinging and even clumping up whenever you run your hand over it. So once you start feeling that epoxy texture change, you need to stop, because if you keep going, you're going to ruin the look of it. It's better to stop, let this fully cure, and then add another layer of epoxy and your micas or glitter on top of this one. Once you are happy with it, you're going to let it cure for the 6 hours, and then you can add another coat of epoxy. If you're going to add a decal, and then epoxy again until it's glass smooth. I hope everyone liked this tutorial, learned something new. Please like, share, subscribe. It means the world to me. And if you have any comments, please write them in the comments. I do write back. And thank you everyone for your continued support.